It's that time of the year already. Bears preseason opener is this Saturday at noon at Soldier Field. Might not be able to say that for very much longer. Bears hosting a home game at Soldier Field seems to be going the direction of Northwest Indiana at a pretty good pace. I know it hasn't gotten as much attention since the Bears board voted to move ahead with Hammond as the new stadium site. But everything I hear is, well, and we all see, which is complete inactivity from the political power structure in Illinois. There's no special session. There's been some proposals bandied about, but there's no action on any of those proposals. It's not really even a discussion point, including by most of the mayoral candidates, except to say, gosh, golly gee, I wish the Bears would stay in Chicago. That's not a plan. The Bears home opener, preseason home opener, Soldier Field against the Cleveland Browns. And seemed like a perfect opportunity to visit with our old friend who used to trod the grass at Soldier Field and Ohio native, to Ohio State standout quarterback. The quarterback with the most wins in Chicago Bears history. True story. Mike Tomczak joins us now. Mike, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan, to you and all listeners. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, great to have you discussing these matters with us in Chicago from Ohio. You know, before we get into it, I'm sure people are interested in being reminded in terms of your involvement with the game still, and you're still involved with the Youngstown State football team at the at the collegiate level, obviously.
Yeah, correct. Youngstown State's been my home for the last 11 years. I came here as on a mission. The president at the time was a gentleman by the name of Jim Tressel, former head coach at Ohio State, the former national champion at Ohio State,
right.
Former national champion coach at YSU, 4-time actually. And when he became president, he called me up and asked me to come up and have lunch with them. Long story short, I ended up coming up and help raising money for endowments at the university. I got involved in some of the football stuff just on a volunteer basis, and I've been volunteering for the last 10 years, and this would be my 11th year. And I'm also involved in some industrial maintenance business. Our dear friend Bob Sapio and I have been having fun with that for the last 8 years. And so Northeast Ohio is where I lay my hat currently.
And I assume, because you didn't say it, that I don't have to refer to Ohio State as the Ohio State, which I really don't like to do.
I don't either.
Okay, all right.
When I was there in the early 80s. It's funny, when that first came out, it was like a slip of the tongue, if you will. And people said, why'd they change their name to the Ohio State? In my wild mind, thinking outside the box, there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. V, and he gave $1 billion to the university on one condition. They put "the" in front of Ohio State.
So for $1 billion, for $1 billion, I'd be branding "the" too. I mean, yeah, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, with my great education from Ohio State, I probed a little bit longer. And one day I was over at the university and talking to some of the administration. They said, we have so many colleges inside this great university. Why not brand it as the Ohio State with all the colleges within the university? So there you go. It's a good play on words, and I know Michigan has a lot of fun with that, especially Calderazzo.
Yeah, well, yeah. So yes. Well, it is even a lowly Northwestern grad. It's it strikes me as a little.
There you go. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It strikes me as a little pretentious, which is something to say for a Northwestern grad. So I don't know.
Northwestern. That's kind of a
I'm saying we don't even do that, and we're supposed to be the haughty school. Yeah, right. All right. Well, let's just start with what I was mentioning, Soldier Field. I mean, I know you you still stay in touch with some of the guys from when your playing days, and what do you think, and what's the consensus about the prospect of the Bears playing in Northwest Indiana?
Well, it's a little closer. It's only 380 miles from my location instead of 420.
There you go.
And it's close to my hometown. Calumet City borders Hammond, Indiana. I'm familiar with the lake shore and, the fine waters of Lake Michigan after swimming in there and boating in there. It's a smokescreen, Dan. Let's be real. It would be uncharacteristic, and not to say McCaskys are uncharacteristic, but Kevin Warren addressed the alumni at a golf outing in May, and basically he just said, we're at a standstill. We've been an Airbnb franchise for the last 50 years. We've been paying rent. He's got a good play on words, right? He's a smart guy, and we all started laughing, and amongst the alums, we're saying, well, that's your fault. People that think, Jerry Joneses of the world, billionaires and are making a lot of money with owning their own stadium. And, I grew up going there, Dan, and you grew up, not too far, at Northwestern, know the beautiful confines of Soldier Field, gorgeous, but it would be uncharacteristic for them to move outside the state. I think Arlington Heights is the real play for many reasons. Not only so commercial development, residential development, controlling your own stadium with other venues coming in there. So I think there's this smoke screen, but I'd be curious to hear your initial thoughts on this whole thing, how it smoldered and became a big fire.
Well, I was skeptical at first after they bought Arlington Heights 5 years ago, Arlington Park, Yep. But as with 5 years of dithering from the Illinois General Assembly, the combination of local and state politics, just not getting them the satisfaction they wanted, and then Hammond making this strong play because, Indiana's a state with budget surpluses. That's something Illinois does not enjoy. And providing $1 billion, setting up a sports authority, providing $1 billion for a stadium in Hammond, and being able to build out a Bearsville and Hammond the same way they had envisioned, I think, for Arlington Heights, and where the fan base is, and so on and so forth. And thinking just even long term about the stability of the environment. And in Indiana, you've got a Democrat mayor of Hammond working with the Republican political power structure there. In Illinois, you can't even get these DSA types to work with one another in the city and the state to accomplish anything. And so now, if the state doesn't do anything, they would almost be negotiating against themselves to turn their back on Hammond, especially after the board voted to move forward with Hammond. And everything I'm hearing now is what may have been a 50-50 proposition a few months ago, like back in May when you heard from Kevin Warren. I think it's more like 95-5 that it's going to happen, and it's going to be Hammond.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what does FanDuel and all these betting sites have it going for?
I don't know. I haven't been tracking where Polymarket and all these other sites have it, but I'm just telling you from what I hear from people who are closer to it than I am. There's definitely been a change in attitude about the prospect that it's real. And Governor Braun in Indiana said from the beginning, like when they were talking to the Bears. He's like, I know when I'm being, just used as leverage for a different play. He's been successful in business. And he's like, this wasn't that. And at the time he said, like, I'm not saying they're coming to Indiana. I think they're still figuring it out. But they're genuinely interested. Like they're really exploring this in a way that somebody doesn't unless they're serious about this as a possibility. Maybe not their first choice, but if they can't get satisfaction with their first choice, you go to your second choice. And I think this is what's happening. Yeah,
and the grass is greener, right? Mentality. And I love the play from the governor of the state of Indiana.
Yeah.
One of the most historic franchises, 106 years old, with a fan base that goes from here to wherever. It's just I can see that happening, and it'll be a moot point after it's all said and done. There'll be political issues and some rallies, and you can't leave up. But who really cares in a year or two? It's going to take them 3 or 4 years to get this facility up, right? So they're going to be in Soldier Field for another 4 years at least, I would think.
Yeah, about. I think that lease runs with the Park District through the first part of the 2030s. So I would expect something like that. But they save something on the order of $250 million on property taxes to make the move. So even if they had to eat the lease for a year or two, they're making it up on property taxes in Illinois.
Really?
In Indiana versus Illinois.
Really?
That's my understanding.
Doing that in Illinois?
That's my understanding.
Doing that in Illinois?
No, well, no. What I'm saying is that they're making up the lease. Been making up a substantial part of the lease with the park district with the property tax relief, in addition to the $1 billion they get in Indiana, which is a lower property tax state. And of course, even in leases, the property taxes are being passed on to the leasee, as you well know.
Well, why wouldn't your dear friend Pritzker do the same thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what the Bears want to know. I think that's a big part of it. They wanted, and this is what they wanted from Arlington Heights too. They wanted property tax certainty, and they're not getting it. And so but this is the point too, where politics impacts business. I mean, we have a flight from Illinois hasn't been seen since the Israelites fled Egypt. And it's because of the instability of the environment and the difficulty of doing business here. Even if you're a billionaire family of a Bears franchise, you're not just looking about what you have. You're looking about what you want to build and what you want to last for the long term, and all the mouths the McCaskys have to feed, the generations of McCaskys. And they're saying, our best play for our longevity and stability and return is Northwest Indiana. I think that's where they're coming down.
We'll wait and see. What a great situation for the McCaskys, though. I mean, you got a $1 billion franchise. You got a lineage of family members that, want to see the benefits of this long historic franchise. And Bob and I were talking last night, Sapio, about the history when Muggsy presented Arlington Heights to the Bears in 1978 before he died.
Really?
For some reason, I was doing some research on it, and he initially said, "Hey, what about Arlington Heights?" Because they had some issues with the park district back then. And here comes full circle. The son of the original founder had a play, and it never came to fruition. That's when Virginia and Ed took over after Muggsy passed away, or actually Mr. Hollis passed away, and so on and so forth. And here we are, 5 decades later, talking about a potential move.
Oh, that's interesting. Wait, did you have a relationship with the McCaskys when you played?
Absolutely.
How was
Absolutely. That? Ed and Virginia were wonderful. Mike was a little quirky.
Yeah.
To be kind.
Yeah. Yeah.
I loved him because, he was our owner. I respected, people that employ you. Your first job out of college, I mean, pinch me. I'm living a dream.
Right.
But I got along. One thing I learned with that great Catholic upbringing out of Calumet City, Our Lady of Knock Church and Parish, when you're an altar boy, you serve a lot of masses and you hear a lot of scripture and blah, blah, blah. So when I joined the Bears, we had Mass on Saturday night, and I always did the readings. And Mr. McCaskey and Mrs. McCaskey were always present, home or away game. Mm-hmm. And so then I got to know, Father Nick and, a long story history with the Bears. And when I got released or they didn't sign me back in 1990, I got a beautiful handwritten note from Virginia saying, "Hey, thank you, blah, blah, blah. P.S. We're going to miss your readings in church or in mass service." And I responded. I wrote her back and said, "Well, bring me back. I can do readings from anywhere."
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool. No,
yeah,
obviously faith was very important to them, to the McCaskey family. Yeah.
Right. And I figured that out. And I always prayed for McMahon to get hurt so I can get in the game. I always prayed for Harbaugh to get hurt so I can get in the game.
Right. Yeah, right.
And I prayed for Ditka to have a heart attack so he'd get off my ass. I believe in the Holy Spirit, Dan. I really do.
Yeah, I'm not sure God's supposed to answer those sorts of prayers, but no, I hear what you're saying. I got you. Well, to talk a little bit of your prognosis for the Bears in the Caleb Williams era and what you expect from them this season.
It's a beautiful thing about this time of year, let alone the fantasy football freaks that are out there going through the drafts and everything, and it's all about them. But everyone's so optimistic, and you hear the word excitement. We're so excited. I hear it from our head coach here at Youngstown State. I hear it from, you turn on ESPN, and every coach that addresses the media talks about the excitement, looking forward to the opportunities, and that's all they are. You get 17 opportunities in the National Football League to win a game, to position yourself for the playoffs. And look at what the Bears did, last year. First of its kind for Ben Johnson to take a team, win a playoff game in his first year. They win 12 games. thriller in that first playoff game against Green Bay, right? We all remember that. It looked like Caleb Williams was trying to get a fly ball center field,
right?
Yeah, center field in Wrigley Field, and he went back and threw a Hail Mary. Speaking of Hail Marys, so one thing I love about the Bears is if the fans are really fans, there wouldn't be a lot of controversy and debate, right? So you want to wish the best for the Bears, but there's always going to be debate because you're a fan. So looking at the roster, they have a very young roster outside of, maybe 5 guys that have 10 years experience, and the rest are pretty much, in between 2 years and 6 years. But Caleb Williams, he knows how to win. He also knows how to lose. And if you beat yourself, that's going to hurt you in the long run, right? So what I'm getting at is when you play an opponent, the opponent, you have to beat them, blah, blah, blah. But when you beat yourself with turnovers, miscommunication, 3 and outs, fumble snaps, no fourth down conversions, and you look back at the tape on Monday morning, you realize we just beat ourselves. We were the better team. So if they could figure that out, which I think they will, and I'd look for another 12-win season for them, quite honestly.
Yeah, I mean, even though they're young, I mean, and one of the things that Caleb was able to do last year is overcome a lot of those mistakes, those sort of self-defeating mistakes. I mean, just because of his athletic ability, and as you say, I mean, he proved he's a closer.
Mm-hmm. And the game has slowed down, Dan, and that's the important thing for quarterbacks and for the fans to realize. Going from college, you had the elite athletes at USC. Well, you come to the Bears and everyone's equal, throughout the league, and the stuff you got away with in college, you can't get away with in the NFL. The errant throws that I made throughout my career, throwing late over the middle is a no-no for a quarterback. And I think Ben Johnson is a great mentor for him because he's become more football IQ, knowing the situation of the game, staying present. 3rd and 8, no one's open. Maybe the best throw is an incompletion. Punt the football is the best thing you could do for your team. But some quarterbacks have egos, and they think they can make a play with their legs or throwing late down the field, and they got a 50-50 ball. But, it's still a team effort. It's one of the greatest games around still. It gets the Chicago fans excited, this time of year. And McCaskys are always going to have 68,000 people, paid attendance. And I didn't realize this, Dan. Kevin Warren was saying we're the smallest attended stadium, or not the smallest attended, the
capacity,
smallest capacity in the National Football League.
Yeah.
And, what do you do about that?
Go get a bigger stadium in Hammond. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Now, is it true that before Caleb Williams made painting his nails au courant, all the rage, that you were doing it at Ohio State? Is that true?
Other people's nails, not mine.
Before we let you go, I mean, since you're still involved in college football, before we let you go, I mean, just a little bit of a reflection on how the NIL era has changed college football and whether you think it's for the good or for the bad, as compared to when you were coming up.
Yeah. Well, I realized that when I went to college, I was given a free education, not free, but the scholarship paid for it, and I was completely content with that. Why me? It was a great opportunity, and I took advantage of that. I'm proud of my education at Ohio State. One thing that's lost in this whole NIL world, it's going to come to a point where we're going to have collective bargaining here by 2028, 2030, and everyone's going to be on equal playing ground, at least the 80 power teams in NCAA football. NIL, one thing they never talk about, Dan, it surprises me, is about education. How many of these kids that transfer in the portal go on and get their degree? Or they just go out and get the money and they figure, okay, I don't need a degree. I got a couple million in the bank and I'm just going to go on with my life. But it's made a level playing field. I think that the teams, the conferences become more competitive, and there's opportunities for teams, and they're going to expand the playoffs. They already got 12 teams in the playoffs, and it might be 24 in 2 years because people want content. What drives collegiate athletics and professional athletics is gambling, right? Mm-hmm. It's a huge. I never thought I'd see the day when gambling was part of the broadcast for NFL games, college football games. it's amazing. And it's such a no-no. It's still a no-no in NCAA and professional football to wager on games. And here you are, they're number one advertiser in a lot of these sporting events.
Does it concern you at all that has a corrupting influence on collegiate sports?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't studied enough because I got other issues I have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
It could be. We've seen it in basketball. We've seen it more recently. There was a number of Iowa State football players that wagered on some games a couple years ago, innocently, but they got suspended. There was a college quarterback that took money, Texas Tech, I believe, and he was wagering on games when he was at his former institution. So
right, and the hypocrisy of that, right? So the whole thing is predicated on gambling, but if any of you players do it, then you get clipped. I mean, it's all to celebrate gambling and drive people to gambling, and then when you wager on a game, a la Pete Rose, wager on yourself or something unrelated to you, then all of a sudden you're corrupt. You're the corrupting influence in sports. It's a little tough to swallow.
Absolutely. And we have compliance people all the time. I'm getting emails, you can't do fantasy football, you can't do NCAA brackets, you can't wager on games, blah, blah. So we're always continuously getting hammered about the do's and don'ts in the NCAA world. Well,
it's always good to talk to you. Hopefully we'll be able to do more of this as the Bears kick off their regular season and get your perspective on how Caleb Williams' campaign is going in 2020, the 2026-27 season. Hopefully there's a 27 part to the 2026 season.
Yeah.
Mike Tomczak, former Bears quarterback, of course. Mike, thanks as always. Appreciate your time.
Hey, Dan, two more things.
Oh, yeah.
Number one, August 30th and 31st, I'm inviting you to the beautiful Lake Club here in Poland, Ohio, for a historic outing between the Michigan Wolverines and the Ohio State Buckeyes alumni football players. First of its kind. Richie Calderazzo, I think, is going to try to sign you up.
He already reached out to me to play for Michigan.
I love it.
So now it's just a matter of a bidding war between you two.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm a celebrity, and he's the bidder. And secondly, I look forward to this. In 4 months from today, December 12th, we'll still see if the excitement of the Bears fans and our conversations are as exciting as they are today.
Very good. Mike Tomczak, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right. See you, Dan.
See ya. And Mike joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line. Let's check the headlines with Mike Scott.
7:33, 72 degrees in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Cleanup underway after